Mr. Gandhi and the Emancipation of the Untouchables by Babasaheb Ambedkar. Chapter 5 Joint versus Separate Electorates. The Hindus have, after a long struggle, accepted the view that a purely territorial constituency will not do in a country like India. In the previous discussion regarding the controversy between territorial constituency and communal constituency as two rival methods of bringing about a truly representative legislature was unnecessary. But I stated the case for and against because I felt that the foreigners who are not aware of Indian political conditions ought to know the basic conceptions underlying that controversy. Unfortunately, however, the fact is that the Hindus have accepted the basic argument in favor of communal scheme of representation. They have not accepted all what the untouchables are demanding. The untouchables demand that their representation shall be by separate electorates. A separate electorate means an electorate composed exclusively of untouchables voters who are to elect an untouchable as their representative to the legislature. The Hindus agree that certain number of seats are to be reserved for untouchables to be filled only by untouchables. But they insist that the untouchables who is to be representative of the untouchables in the legislature should be elected only by a mixed electorate consisting both of the Hindus as well as the untouchables and not by an electorate exclusively of the untouchables. In other words, there is still a controversy over the question of joint versus separate electorates. Here again, I want to set out the pros and cons of this controversy. The objection to separate electorate raised by the Hindus is that separate electorates means the fragmentation of the nation. The reply is obvious. First of all, there is no nation of Indians in the real sense of the word. The nation does not exist, it is to be created. And I think it will be admitted that the suppression of a distinct and a separate community is not the method of creating a nation. Secondly, it is conceded, as the Hindus have done, that untouchable shall be represented in that legislature by untouchable, then it cannot be denied that the untouchable must be a true representative of the untouchable voters. If there is a correct position, then separate electorate is the only mechanism by which real representation can be guaranteed to the untouchables. The Hindu argument against separate electorate is insubstantial and unsupportable. The premises on which the political demands of the untouchables are based are admitted by the Hindus. Separate electorates is only a consequence which logically follows those premises. How can you admit the premise and deny the conclusion? Special electorates are devised as a means of protecting the minorities. Why not permit a minority like the untouchables to determine what kind of electorate is necessary for its own protection? If the untouchables decide to have a separate electorates, why should their choice not prevail? These are the questions to which the Hindus can give no answer. The reason is that the real objection to separate electorates by the Hindus is different from this ostensible objection raised in the name of a nation. The real objection is that separate electorates does not permit the Hindu to capture the seats reserved for the untouchable. On the other hand, the joint electorate does. Let me illustrate the point by a few examples of how joint and separate electorates would work in the constituency. Take the following constituencies from the Madras Presidency. Name of the constituency, total number of seats for the Hindus, seats reserved for the untouchables, total number of Hindu voters, total number of untouchable voters, and ratio of Hindu voters to untouchable voters. 1. Madras City South. 2. 1. 40,626, 2,577, 16 to 1. 2. Chikkakole. 2. 1. 83,456, 5,125, 16 to 1. 3. Vijayanagaram. 2. 1. 47,595, 996, 49 to 1. 4. Amalapuram. 1. 1. 52,805, 7,760, 7 to 1. 5. Ellore. 1. 1. 51,795, 5,155, 9 to 1. 6. Bandar. 1. 1. 84,191, 8,723, 10 to 1. 7. Tenali. 2. 1. 1,33,107, 5,732, 24 to 1. The figures of the voting strength given in the above table for the 7 constituencies taken at random in the Madras Presidency are illuminating. A scrutiny of the above figures is sufficient to show any disinterested person that if there is a separate electorate for the untouchables in these 7 constituencies, they would be in a position to elect a man in whom they had complete confidence and who would be independent to fight the battle of the untouchables on the floor of the legislature against the representatives of the Hindus. If, on the other hand, there is a joint electorate in these constituencies, the representative of the untouchables would be only a nominal representative and not a real representative. For no untouchable who did not agree to be a nominee of the Hindus and a tool in their hands could be elected in a joint electorate in which the untouchable voter was outnumbered in a ratio of 1 to 24 or in some cases 1 to 49. The joint electorate is, from the point of the Hindus, to use a familiar phrase, a rotten borough, in which the Hindus get the right to nominate an untouchable to sit nominally as a representative of the untouchables, but really as a tool of the Hindus. It will be noticed that the Hindu, in opposing the so-called communal scheme of the untouchables, which his so-called national scheme, is not fighting for a principle, nor is fighting for the nation. He is simply fighting for his own interests. He is fighting to have in his hands the undivided control over political power. His first line of defense is not to allow any shares to be drawn upon so that, like the manager of the Hindu joint family, he can use the whole for his benefit. That is why he fought for purely territorial constituencies. Failing that, he takes his second line of defense. He wants that if he is made to concede power, he must not lose control over it. This is secured by joint electorates and frustrated by separate electorates. That is why the Hindu objects to separate electorates and insists upon joint electorates. The end of the so-called national scheme may not be communal, but the result undoubtedly is. The end.